everybody. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Give me a thumbs up out there in viewer land. Doug Fowler here, Pulaski County Talks, about to chime over with the one and only Nick Pappas in the office. I can hear myself on the speaker upstairs, so it sounds like at least my microphone's working. I haven't tuned you on yet because I don't want to listen to you yet.
That's
So
all right.
first and foremost, shout out to the sponsors of the show. Thank you so much for being part of the show, making this possible. Our gold sponsor for the show, first and always, Mark Prue and the Prue Law Office down in Waynesville, Missouri. They've been a backbone for this show and making this happen. And also Hicks Services. Thank you so much. A to Z Extermination. Thank you so much. Give these sponsors a shout out yourself. Visit their page, learn about their services, and as they support us, try to support them as well. So, Nick, welcome back. Let me turn you on before we get started.
Am I on yet?
Yeah, you're live now. Move the microphone a little bit closer.
I don't hear anything in my headset yet.
Oh, might I turn you off? Yeah, the mute button.
Oh, that makes a big difference, man.
The dreaded mute button. Not like I did that
You're
intentionally.
kind of quick on that thing too, man.
No, I'm going to figure out how to have the audience do it and say, "Well, we're tired of him." You can write him out on the rail, just like, "Oh, brother, we're out there."
Yeah.
Are you or are you not my constituent? So we're here again. We're doing a campaign update, and a little bit different this time. Before we get started with the questionnaire and everything else that's going on, Nick, why don't you give us a 5-minute update of what's going on in your world, the campaign world, and we'll open up the Facebook chat to questions and answers. And just so everybody knows, the phone is ready. If you got to text them in, I've already got one live.
You got it charged yet?
I think so. It's an Android. How these work, I don't know.
You're a tech guy, man. You should have that down.
Android. It's the Samsung.
The one thing I want to address, so I know a lot of people are like, I don't respond or I'm a little slow. You got to remember I do work a lot, about 6.5 days a week. Between different jobs, all public service jobs. So I will get back to you. If I don't get back to you, you can also send me a private message. It'll hit my phone. I'll see it and I'll get to you as soon as I can. That's the biggest thing. I am a working candidate. So is another candidate as well. So I'm not the only one in time when you actually do the job, and it gets a little time consuming to say the least.
Well, especially in this time of, I want everything now. How can you not be answering my messages right now? I know you've seen them because you was away on Facebook. I hate to say you've seen your message. I cannot believe you didn't stop, pull over on the interstate. And
so I took a little time and chatted with a gentleman that was on my page and addressed his issue, and I'll try and pay a little closer attention. It gets a little difficult at times, but not just with me. When you reach out to any one of the candidates, people are going to be like, well, you're in it to win it. I am in it to win it. But out of all fairness, you reach out to any candidate, give them a little bit of time, give them some time to come back. There's, 500 plus square miles, over 50,000 people in this county. And it's difficult for one person to reach out to every single person. So
absolutely. I mean, it's just unrealistic, even though you may be used to being able to communicate just like that.
Yep.
Back and forth. Come on, tell them to call the show.
Yep.
If you want
call
to
the show, send a message to whoever's page.
Yeah.
You've got time. August 6th is the election.
Yeah.
Of course I want your vote.
Sure.
But I also always preach make an informed decision. If you don't think I answered the question, hit me up.
Yeah.
You can send Doug a message. He'll definitely hit us with it.
It will stick.
It will stick. And we'll get there and we'll get your question answered. And I think it's also important to note, I don't know what the topic is tonight. I know I got a message via Facebook about the jail and my approach, and I don't know what your questions are yet, but I think it's important to note too that I'm not necessarily fluent in the jail. What is the topic tonight? What do you got planned?
You're the
random.
I put a little ad together on how you were going to be the guinea pig for the new format.
Oh, great. So I think it's real important to know that there are countless job duties in a sheriff's department. We may not have every single answer. I do a lot of research.
Sure.
Taught college for 10 years, so doing research is actually kind of interesting to me. But it's really important to know that we may not be able to lock in solid on every answer. We may have a path. I do have a path. So just be really, they need to be patient and understand there's a lot that goes on in the sheriff's department at our levels. We're going to get in there, and it's going to be baptism by fire for any one of us, period.
We've all been in that job where you show up and you have to learn on the job somewhat.
Yep.
And I mean, just me, and I'm just speaking my opinion. I wouldn't expect you to be, unless you came from a jail-focused prior occupation. And I can't speak for the other candidates, but I don't think anybody else has either. But I could be wrong. So if I am wrong, feel free to hit me up on Facebook. But and with what happened this past week, I think it's just going to draw more and more and more attention.
Okay, so I'm not going to really, everybody, I know what's in the media, right? Yeah. But there's a lot that nobody knows except the people in that facility, and they're not going to be able to talk about it. Sure. I don't blame them.
Yeah.
One candidate still works for that sheriff's department. Mm-hmm. I absolutely would not blame him if he doesn't comment, because there's still going to be a pending investigation. There's a lot of things that come out of that. And so don't expect a solid answer on what occurred. That's not feasible at this point.
Absolutely.
It does fall into transparency down the road, and I've always pitched that, but not right now. That's not good for the suspect himself and the illegal things coming forward, or for the family of the deceased.
Absolutely. I mean, we are in America. We do have rights, and whether you're on what other side of the aisle you're on.
And as much as I believe in transparency, which I absolutely do, the media can make a frenzy out of something and escalate, the judicial process to where it can be skewed against the suspect. And we have a process in place for them. Absolutely. It becomes a little unfair. So I think it needs to be careful. But I guess I could address one question that hit me up. You can build on it if you want. I know you said something about I'm going to be a guinea pig yet again. Gee, thanks. I'm going to start charging for it. But I was asked a question about how to address jail issues. After this popped off, and then I got a message, and I don't remember who it's from. I didn't recognize the name off the top of my head, and that's kind of irrelevant, really. But I think the big thing is so with the jail, I talked last time about a certification process or accreditation. Mm-hmm. It's actually through the National Institute of Corrections, and there's a whole laundry list of things you do to get accredited. But I think one of the big things is manning. Being able to have the appropriate manpower. There's not necessarily a inmate to corrections officer ratio. In this case, ratio. But if you think about it, the last time I checked their roster, they were housing around 95. I bet you Brian could answer that one right off the top of his head. But I believe I just checked it a couple of days. It was around 94, 95. And when you look at manpower, you're not talking just about the jailers themselves.
Right.
You're going to have somebody in the tower watching, overview. What happens if something breaks loose? You may have guys or gals on the benches, to be processed in. Now you're going to take a jailer. You got to have sufficient staffing in case something breaks loose. You still got one jailer to control the rest of it, because until the cavalry can get there and back up. So, it's not just about safety for the jailers, but we're also obligated to provide a safe environment for the inmates as well.
Oh, and
that's a lot of mitigation. So there's actually guidelines that come down from the NIC, National Institute of Corrections. The Department of Justice actually published a publication, which is kind of a guideline that says, hey, here's how you can assess your jail. And I've talked about assessments in the past for the sheriff's department and the jail. But you start out with an assessment, because nobody can go in there. I don't care who you are. You don't go into any agency and just say, okay, I'm going to start, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone, and this is how we're going to do business. It doesn't work. And next thing you know, you've already cut your throat because you've gotten rid of key people you shouldn't have got rid of. It's not good business. And who do you end up hurting? Yeah. Same people that are paying for that service. So you assess it. You look at, what jobs you have, what manpower you have. How do you fit that manpower to those positions? Because the end game is we owe it to the taxpayers to provide that service. We got to worry about the courts. We got to worry about getting inmates to health care transfers and going and pick inmates up. They're extraditable, and transporting them to the Department of Corrections. And there's a whole ton of things that go in there. It's not just simply, okay, we book them in and we walk out. And a lot of people have that perception if they don't work in the field.
So what you'd be doing is basically a requirements-based assessment to say what is
Absolutely
required. You have your knowns, which is I have X and Y, Z. I got these laws to follow, these many prisoners, this X, Y, Z. So knowing that, I know how many of this I need to have and be able to do. Now, what do I have in my hand?
And you look at it too, is every jail's a little bit different. The clientele, if you want to put it that way, your inmates, like the facility I work in, our clientele is quite different. So you probably get more violent offenders here than we get where I'm at. You can probably get a lot more mental health. I know they do here issues, and those all present unique challenges to the jail staff. So when you look at it, you're looking at inmate to correction officer or jail staff ratio.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at the jail's training abilities. They are all too often. I think the organization I work for does a pretty good job at trying to get them some training. There's training out there that you can get for them, not just through the Sheriff's Association, but other training that's actually corrections geared. And so it's really important to get them that training so they can address those issues and know how to handle it. Everything from mental health, we get CIT and we got a myriad of things. We have multidisciplinary teams we work with when we're dealing with, troubled people,
right,
mental health,
right.
whatever it may be, addiction. We got to be able to give the jail staff that same capability to deal with it. Because let's face it, it's no fun to be in a jail with 100 people and there's 2 or 3 of you in there.
I can't even fathom it.
Yeah. And, you go up, I've been to probably 6 different prisons in this state for various reasons to conduct interviews. It's no kind of cute when you wear a badge and you go in there and they know that I've put somebody in one of those prisons. So, asking one of the, anybody that's been to one of them, and I've sat in the middle of a huge area to talk to them before, and you're surrounded by inmates, and none of them like you because they're all innocent. Just ask them.
Well, sure.
So, but the reality is that assessment, and then it's almost like a vulnerability assessment we used to do in the military. But what do our jailers need to be safe, and then for them to be safe, what do we need to do for the inmates to ensure their safety as well?
Right.
And I've already been asked, well, was the incident that recently occurred preventable? I don't know. Other than what's in the paper, I can't answer that question. It's not fair to ask any of the candidates that question.
I agree.
We don't know.
And probably it's just like you said earlier, there should not be at liberty to discuss it.
No, but it comes down with it. I keep harping on it, and there's a reason why. You don't just go into a department and just start making changes.
Sure.
You have to assess your community, understand. I've pulled down way too many crime stats and looked at where we're weak. You're going to look at your deputies and understand what their strengths and weaknesses are, where they want to go, where they want to be. Because if you gear their duties to their career goals, they're going to be more productive, and you can adjust your staff, if you will, to meet those needs, which in the end, again, meets the needs of the community.
Sure.
So we all have strengths and weaknesses, regardless of what people say. We all do. We're not perfect. We're human. So assess all of it. It's not going to happen overnight. But that jail is very hard. I've never met any jail long-term employees. It is a hard job. You deal with people that are highly irritated when they come in there. I've personally, every jurisdiction I've been in, you carry people in cuffs that have leg chains on, they're hogtied, they're spitting, they're fighting. Guess what? You cuffing them to the bench. You might stand there for a little bit, but guess who's dealing with them at the end of the day? That's your jailer. You've got to give them the ability to safely deal with them, and there's restraint procedures they've got to learn and make sure they understand, they still have use of force they have to follow and be aware of. There's a lot to it. It's not just we hook somebody up, we take them down, we cuff them, we do the booking sheet.
And they go in with a smile.
Yeah, going, most of the agencies I've dealt with, we usually hang around for a minute, make sure they're going to be good, because these jailers, and it's a rough job.
Yeah.
And people underestimate what they go through. And let me tell you, they're usually not the top paid in any department I've seen.
I was about to mention that too. I don't know what the pay starting out pay is, but
I'd actually have to pull down the budget, which is in a process, but that is a extremely stressful job. Wait till you get a fight among several inmates and you're the only one there at the time to hold the fort down.
Yeah.
And
I can't even fathom it.
When the sheriff's department was in the old location, I do remember this is a long time ago, like a long, long time ago, 3 sheriffs ago. There was a fight late at night. Every deputy's called in, Waynesville's called in, and guess who the backup was for the jailer? The dispatcher that sat 2 doors over.
Really?
And they handled their own, by God.
Really?
Yeah. So you got to look at the staffing and make sure they're safe. And it begins with that assessment. I use the Nick because, not having a corrections background, I've talked to some correctional officers, career correctional officers. That's what they use. And it's a good guideline, and it kind of guides you through that process, that assessment process. You're talking, and it's more than just inmate to correction officer ratio. It talks about scheduling, and it goes into depth, any activities like rec, church, all of it. Is all that is encompassed in there. And what does it take to safely operate in that environment more than there's your booking officer and you got a guy in the tower. Now, I'm not sure. I have been in the jail several times and never had an issue. Jail staff was always very professional with us, but greatly understaffed, and I know they're underpaid for what they have to contend with.
I can't even fathom it.
And
I just can't.
Yeah, it's again, you have to look at the revenue that the sheriff's department will get. There's so many factors. We could talk all day for 2 weeks on budget and how to make it align, and until we get in there and see what the guys are really dealing with and gals, where can we cut some corners, save a little bit of money, and put it where it needs to be.
There's a movie with Jeff Bridges where he's a Texas lawman, Texas Ranger, and they go to this restaurant and somewhere in the hardcore Texas part, and the lady walks in, "What don't you want?" That's basically what you have to tell the people to write the budget. Tell me what you don't want me to do, because I can't make stuff work.
So it's really kind of interesting that I've done a lot of research on it, and I still continue to get educated on it. You can't just say, hey, tag, I'm it. But when I do put something in place, it'll be backed by the research and the funding to do so. Yeah. But safety's key. I have been in the fights. I'm getting a little bit older. They
don't bounce so well, do you?
No, and the adrenaline, when you have that adrenaline dump, it hits me a little harder probably than most. I'll try and hold my own. Definitely be in there with the crew, but you never want to get to that point. Right. Verbal judo is your friend.
Sure.
It's not necessarily a soft approach. It's a safe approach. We all want to go home, and so do the jailers. Sure. So it's, excuse me, it's basically, the assessment, inmate to correctional officer ratio, right, and then working the schedule. It's all encompassing. You can't just say we're going to have, one jailer to, 20, inmates. I was looking at Department of Corrections. Now it was a 2016 study that was done, I believe. It was actually through the Missouri Department of Corrections, and one prison had for every 100 inmates, it was 11.1 to 1. In other words, 11 inmates to 1 CO. But they'd have in one cell block 6 COs, a sergeant and a lieutenant. That was back then. I didn't find one real current. There may be one there, but I hadn't found it yet. So, and they are very stringent on their guidelines, how they operate, their protocols, and they're trained.
Oh, I bet.
But again, talk about a hair-raising job. Going to the jail with, you got 100 inmates and tag you're it.
I just, from the Army time, a company is usually about 100 people, and just one person, one against 100, a company.
Yeah. So, it's, again, assessment, training, and making it fit as a whole. You can't just say, I'm going to take this one piece. I want to focus on jail staff versus inmate ratio. It doesn't work that way. You got to look at scheduling, everything encompassed to make it work safely.
If you look over to your left, look at that face in the middle of that wheel.
Oh, Lord. Really?
That's it, buddy. That's
all right, hit it.
Everybody's going. It's going to take a little bit, but I'm going to bring it up on my screen here.
Hit it.
And your first question is Doug's picks. Now, you ain't going to see it yet, but it'll show up.
How do you know which one it is, man?
We got a buffer. See, there it goes.
Okay.
And everybody's watching you now.
So what's the point? Is it your face at the top?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. Doug picks.
That's
Go
right.
figure.
Now, any topic of my choosing, it can be related to sheriffs or not. Are you a movie buff? Who directed Shaun of the Dead, the greatest movie of all time?
Oh man, I don't know, Doug. Come on.
Okay, Edgar Wright. I got one more.
All right.
One more. Zombie apocalypse readiness. In the event of a zombie apocalypse, what would your strategy be to keep Pulaski County safe? And can we count on the sheriff's office to provide us with the survival kits, including, mark this, donuts and coffee?
Donuts and coffee we probably handle. I'm sure we can make the donuts. We're not going to be without coffee if I'm around. I'll buy it myself.
That's right. We'll just, what do you call it? Take it line.
I guess we could throw up a 10 cent inside the wire and have snipers on the roof, man.
All right, we're going to spin it again.
All right, hit it.
There we go.
Is there a buffer or something?
Yeah, buffer will take you a little bit. Right. We'll let it catch up a little bit. They see us waiting for it, and it'll spin it again. I don't know what the buffer time is, but I'll just tell you. Guess what we just talked about?
The jail.
The jail.
You got actually specific questions?
I got a whole bunch. I got 5 of them.
Oh, my Lord. Okay. Fire away.
And it ties into a lot of stuff we talked about between you and the other candidates. How do you intend to promote transparency and accountability in jail operations to the public and to the family of those incarcerated? That's it.
Well, they already have the jail roster up.
Right.
That's published. I'm trying to figure out exactly what you're asking on that.
How would you keep the public informed? Right now, is there a place we know or is it possible that the public should be able to know who's incarcerated?
Yeah, you can pull up their website right now, the Sheriff's Department, and they have a spreadsheet there you can pull up, and they're usually pretty good about keeping it updated. Mm-hmm. That would continue. The incidents that currently happen, once it's done, I would do a joint press release with the PA to ensure, we don't overstep our boundaries, our legal boundaries.
Well, I believe the Highway Patrols.
Yeah, DDCC would be doing that, which anytime anything like that happens inside, you would have an outside organization do it anyway. The other thing is at the end of the year, I like to do roll-ups, if you will. And it's all encompassing though. So it's not just the jail. Jail would be included of it. Hey, this is what we encountered during the year. This is what we did to fix it. Not necessarily a specific incident, but hey, we had some use of force issues or whatever, and this is how we addressed it. What else was on that question, Doug? Because I want to make sure I answer it.
You got it.
Did I? Okay.
You got limited time. I just don't tell you.
Oh, okay.
All right. Sprinkles or no sprinkles? Doug's pick. It's the rules. Doug's pick. Sprinkles or no sprinkles?
Are we talking like donuts?
Sprinkles or no? That's the question.
No sprinkles, dude.
No sprinkles. Because sprinkles are for winners.
Oh, whatever, man.
There's a commercial, Geico commercial or Progressive. I just think it's the funniest thing.
That's probably a copyright violation.
Probably. I just gave a plug. All right, I spun it again. And we are rolling with, I think I just rolled it. Maybe I didn't.
I don't know. Are we muted because you got the mute button?
There it goes.
What's a mute button on the left side that keeps going?
That's for the TV. They don't see that. I remember to mute the TV.
Viewer. What the heck's that mean?
The viewer's question.
Oh.
And we have the viewer question. This is from Jason Anderson. I believe I got your name right. Let me make sure I got their jail right. Jason Anderson. I don't know you, Jason, but thank you so much for sending us a text. This is for Nick. And I'm going to ask the same question of all the candidates that make it in here.
Fire it.
Would you consider joining the CSPOA organization, and your thoughts on the organization at large towards the constitutional duties of sheriff? And I'm assuming they mean
Constitutional Sheriff's Association.
The Constitution, not the state constitution, but the US.
That as an organization, I would actually have to research. I know that organization basically came to fruition after the sheriff challenged the Brady bill and the government's, background checks, that type of thing. There's a lot of confusion with the constitutional sheriff's bill that's up at the House and a resolution, I believe it is, that's there. The constitutional sheriff is not one that writes law,
right,
but it keeps the sheriff, gives them the ability to enact laws that are in place, not write them, and without fear of retaliation. Well, the government says, hey, you know what, we're going to take everybody's guns, whether it's a handgun, assault weapon, whatever.
Right.
When the sheriff says, no, that's unconstitutional, I'm not going to do that, that keeps that governor, the concept is from coming in and telling the sheriff, well, I'm taking you out of office.
Right.
It does not alleviate if the sheriff violates a law, they can still be removed. It's just, it gives them the ability to enforce the law and then seek that legal guidance and interpretation of that Constitution.
And I think we discussed offline at length my opinion,
Yeah.
and it's just my opinion, and me and Nick kind of disagree a little bit about it, and that is that my biggest concern is that if somewhere in the middle of Montana or whatever state elects how should we say it, barely educated individual to be sheriff because it looks good on paper, and have to entrust that individual to determine what laws are constitutional or not constitutional, whether or not he or she should enforce them. That's very concerning to me. That's a lot of power. And then the second part is, I do believe that, and just me, that the sheriff should be able to be terminated as part of the executive branch of the government by the governor, no matter what party, whatever. Just because that's just kind of what it is now. If Trump didn't like the Republican Secretary of Defense, you're gone.
Yep.
He didn't introduce it. He didn't agree. So I think that power still resides. But that's just what I know of it.
Yeah. So from my reading and my research and talking to others, it's very hard to do this job without fear. It's hard to apply it equally if, especially the chiefs. There is a statute that protects them, but guess what? It doesn't protect. It gives them the ability to file litigation if they're removed.
Okay.
So
gotcha. I did not know that.
Yeah. So it's hard to say, well, we're gonna apply the law equally, and then next thing you know, they're under fire because, well, it's somebody's next kin or a friend of a friend or that type of thing. So when you move it up to the sheriff's office, and that's really what that's about, it gives them the ability to challenge it. Would I fight it tooth and nail? If I'm breathing, I'd fight it because nobody's going. Both my boys are in the military.
Yeah.
Oh, you better believe I got some fight in me, So would I stand my ground? Absolutely. Would I join the organization? In all fairness, I would have to do some more research on the organization, see what their standpoints are. I am familiar with them. I haven't really read into them. I'm more focused on the state of Missouri and the constitutional sheriff legislation that's trying to get through now. And that's really what it's geared to. So the sheriff can, if there's something that's really, against the Second Amendment's a big one. Let's face it. Even the First Amendment, is being challenged. But to give the sheriff the ability to enforce the law or challenge it when needed without just arbitrarily, because what happens then, and I think the easiest way for me to put it, and I'm sure somebody out there is going to beat me up on it, a sheriff or somebody, but it keeps us from becoming henchmen. Yeah. Some arbitrary law getting passed, and next thing you know, it's like we're hired thugs. No, we're not. We're here to enforce the law and protect our communities and serve our communities, not sit there and enforce some arbitrary law because you got some person that doesn't like guns, or they don't like the way somebody talks to one another, even if it's well within First Amendment rights. So that's kind of
Gotcha.
layman terms, my interpretation.
Well,
so far, I've found I'm pretty close on target on it. So.
I was hoping that maybe a lawyer or 6 would engage with us and be willing to come.
Would that be your sponsor, Lawyer 6?
One of them, or somebody who's listening.
Yeah.
Maybe there's about 5 of them down in Square.
Well, maybe you need to hit them up on the next one. We'll toss it around again. But
no horse so dead you can't kick it again.
You know what? I'll start making some phone calls. But I'd
like to hear the concept. Daryl Todd did chime in and briefly talked about it and what the previous administrations, the sheriff administrations, weren't liberal to talk about it. But it's a very confusing mentality and ideology to me. So
yeah, I mean, on a state level, it's just so the sheriff can enforce those laws and not just be arbitrarily removed.
Right.
Because I'm not digging our governor. I mean, he is a former cop himself. So
exactly.
But you get some governor in there that has some hidden agenda or some political agenda that may not necessarily be constitutional.
Right.
Gives the sheriff the ability to take action without fear of being removed just because he doesn't follow an ideology. Let's follow the Constitution, not your ideology.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing.
Gotcha.
And I mean, that's the simplest way. As far as the national organization, I would before I join any organization, I like to know where they stand, what they're really about.
I think I'm going to join the Rotary Club.
Yeah.
I think that's a legitimate organization. I was reading what they do.
Yeah, no, they are. They are legit.
Here's your next question.
Oh, somebody said.
Oh, we got something?
No, they said it was. I think it was in reference.
Was that the jail list?
Yeah, I think that's what that was. Yes, there is, but I don't think it's updated.
Thank you so much, Dana. I
think it's
right.
Dana. Dana. But yeah, I checked it 2 days ago, and I think it was around 94-ish.
Okay.
So.
Well, the next question is bottom left of the screen is budget.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Well, I think it has to
go.
I'm going to preface this saying, do you have limited ability? The budget is what the budget is. So you have at your cap. I got that. So considering that's your cap, you don't control how much income you bring in. What strategy or how are you going to implement changes or if any assessment to determine what you need versus what you don't have to fix out what you need? Does that make sense? Like capability-based assessment.
As a CBA.
A CBA.
So again, everybody's going to be like, man, he's beating a dead horse on this whole analysis or assessment. But again, take one piece of the sheriff's department. It's a whole, but let's take, the road guys because they get beat up a lot. You're not doing enough. You're not doing enough. Well, if anybody was out there, I was on a call with them a couple of weeks ago and those guys were jumping.
Yeah.
So, they stay busy. So, you look at where's our budget? What's our equipment? What's our line item for equipment? How much money can we put in there? And then what do they need to actually perform the job? You have niceties and you have necessities, right? We need to have those necessities and then any of the niceties, okay, can we find a grant to fill that gap? And that's how we have to look at it. Same way with the jail. Mm-hmm. There's grants out there, trust me, for jail equipment, that type of thing. LESO program, through the military to fill some gaps. You don't get brand new equipment, but you can get quite a bit. You'd be amazed at what you can get to fill certain fields. And even if it's a temporary fill, if you will, until you can find the money, you're looking at, the jail, where are our food costs and where, can we save money? There's nutritional plans they have to follow, right? Sure. Inmates have to have certain amount of nutrition, there's plans. But can we, we need to be looking at, vendors every fiscal year, where are we at? How much money are we spending? Where can we save money? Mm-hmm. Still meet the statutes, save a little money, and can we move money around?
Gotcha.
Pay is a big one, but pay is commensurate to, you got so much money, it's spending it wisely.
Yeah.
Niceties or necessities. Manpower is a necessity. Period.
Yeah.
Because guess what? if a jailer goes down, guess who's going to be in that jail?
Deputy.
A deputy.
Yeah.
Which means now you're down somebody on the road.
Or on the court.
Yep, absolutely. Court has bailiffs, but you still got to get them to court. You still, there's so many functions that people don't see.
I look like a diagram. It's just all these moving pieces.
Yeah, actually, I've been trying to work on one, like a wiring schematic to keep it in focus for myself. But I will continuously say that the CBAs, the assessments, it won't happen right away. It'll happen quickly.
Right.
But you got to remember, too, the current budget is going to be set, or the budget that when we come in is going to be set by the sheriff going out.
Yeah.
Unless there's a right seat ride and we get to mingle a little bit with that budget and kind of assess. But there's a lot of working parts in that, moving parts, if you will, that's going to have to be looked at, and we're going to have to really pay attention when and I squeeze pennies.
Sure.
Which they probably don't want to hear, but until we get the budget under wraps and we know exactly where, then we can focus. And, oh, by the way, yes, the sheriff sets the budget, but he's got to listen to his people.
Awesome.
What do they need, to be safe, to perform the duties? And you'd be amazed. Sometimes it's very basic.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's a little more complex that we'll have to work on, And cars is always a beast. I don't care what anybody says. Transportation's always a beast in the sheriff's department. These guys log a lot of hours. They got to patrol. They respond to calls and transport. So that's a beast, and that's something, you don't just say, this is what we need. We look, we listen, you talk to your people, you assess them, you pay attention to your call volume. Do we need a bigger fuel budget? Do we need better, whatever that case may be. And as far as the budget goes, when it comes to reports at the end of the year, again, I like doing roll-ups. You'll see where the money is, what we had, where we spent it, how much was in general revenue, how much is in civil funds, that type of thing, and how we expended that money, so you understand not only how we expended it, but why we expended it that way. So people kind of understand, half the time the complaints come because we don't do a good job explaining it.
Next question is your pick. What do you want to talk about?
Ooh, what have we not talked about?
We can talk about donuts.
I don't want to talk about donuts. I like bagels personally.
I like the fritters, the apple fritters. Oh my God! And this shows.
Let's hit patrol real quick because
I'll seed you a question if you want.
Huh?
I happen to be top of my list. If you want me to seed you a question, if you
what's that?
Patrol.
Hit me with a question. Let's hit patrol because we haven't talked about it.
What data or metrics, me, bean counter,
bean counters,
would you use to assess patrol effectiveness, and how will this inform your decisions regarding resource optimization, i.e. budget?
So you look at call volume, right?
Mm-hmm.
And call volume will vary based on the shift that they perform. So you have the CADs. You can follow those CADs. You can pull down the number of reports, deputy, computer-aided dispatch, right? So you can look at the CAD, compare to who's responding to what, and that may just be because of the shift.
Right.
Some shifts are busy, especially in the summer. Nights go crazy in this county. Okay. So, and weekends. So you look at it and who's pulling the most cases. Is it because of the shift? Is it because they're more proactive? And then if they're not pulling a lot of cases or not answering a lot of calls, is it because they're not responding, or is it just a dead time in their shift? You know what I mean? And the stats will show that. And that's all, I did it in a smaller agency. The agency I work in now, those stats are produced, I think, every month. Road sergeant pulls that down. I would pull it down probably the same. But that not only tells you who's producing what, but who's seeing a case through.
So if it generates a probable cause, or
yeah, well, if it generates, a deputy goes to pick something, a burglary,
right?
Okay, and the deputy ends up getting stuck with it. Are they seeing it through? If they're not seeing it through, why?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are like, well, they haven't got to it. Well, when you go call to call to call to call, and you take 10 calls, and 9 of the 10 calls generate reports. Well, if you never typed a report, it's no fun. So those stats will all get compiled every month. That can change in the future after we kind of get a grip on who's doing what. And then also those stats also provide a good tool for the leadership in that department to say, okay, they're struggling. This deputy may be struggling with report writing. Mm-hmm. Good deputy, hardworking, but maybe struggle. Those stats will help them address that as well, and a QC of the reports themselves. The number of cases getting to the court is another one. How many PC statements go up? Mm-hmm. Are they getting filed? Yes or no? If they're not, why? Are we not producing what we need to? So the UCR, the Uniform Crime Reporting, which is now the MEBR's reporting, I actually help another smaller agency do theirs. Theirs is a little bit different. We actually have to manually input it case for case, mm-hmm. and that's no fun. But if you look at, I talked about intelligence-led policing where we target an area because of the crime. So if we target an area and we're making good arrests, and we're getting charges, and that crime rate drops by looking, and you can pull that out of the system, then we know we're being effective. Right. If we're targeting an area and we're still having the same problem, are we just not having a follow through? Are we not doing the cases right? Is it what other issues are in there? And law enforcement is not lockstep. It is ever
peeling the layers back.
It's always evolving. And again, you go all the way back to the building to begin with assessment. If we are not giving the guys what they need and gals on the road mm-hmm. to perform their duty, whether it's training, equipment, supervision, we're setting them up for failure. Right. Which means we're not serving the community we need to be serving. So I've done the job now 27 years. Still will work the road with a smaller agency here. And it's it's a constant evolution. Watching the cases, what are we getting? Who are our problem children? What do we need to address it? Maybe we are, attacking that issue. Mm-hmm. We're just not making grounds. Do we have to take a different approach? Right. And those are things we have to look at. And that's, again, what you got?
Sprinkles. You sure?
Yeah, no sprinkles.
Okay, I'm going to spin it again.
Spin it again. See what we got. What's our time limit? We're an hour?
We're at an hour. Right now we're about 7.
Okay, we got like 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, we got 15 minutes. We'll give you one more question.
You going to spin it again?
Just spin it. It'll take a second. Oh. If there's any viewers out there, we're low on audience. We got three out there, and I can't tell how many. Let me check.
Well, my question is, I wonder if it spins for him fast. There it goes.
Yeah. Let's see how many.
Why am I always a guinea pig, Doug?
Well.
It's on the line, man.
Oh, it's awesome.
You got to spin it again.
No, that's it.
Dang it.
Courts. You got the courts. That's number 2 requirement.
Courts. What about courts?
What about certainly? Well, here's a good question.
Fire it.
What measures will you implement to ensure the safety and security of the courts? And how will you balance these with the rights and dignity of those attending court proceedings?
A lot of that is set by the courts themselves. So, contrary to common belief, the judge says he wants 3 bailiffs, which actually works for the circuit clerk here.
Right.
And they're down, guess what? Somebody's going to be up there. And if it's me, it's me. I've done bailiff duties, by the way, with the current organization I'm with. Judge wants it, they're going to get it. That's their house, their rules.
Yeah.
But, again, this is not one of those things where we just traipse people across the street in an orange jumpsuit to get them to court either. Right. They don't do that now, by the way. I'm just saying, again, safety. It's a very short distance between our jail and the courthouse.
Well, yeah, right
but you
now.
get a high risk, and they do this anyway. If there's a high risk inmate, there's going to be additional security there. If they need a deputy, it's going to happen. So again, though, that's well addressed.
Yeah.
And the bailiffs do work for the circuit clerk, I do believe. So
I just had the question. They work for the circuit clerk.
Yep.
They don't work for the sheriff?
They have a commission through the sheriff. They are sworn law enforcement.
But they do, like an SRO work for the schools, they work for the school.
Yes. Okay. And they follow those guidelines and the court guidelines and the policies, procedures. They are sworn law enforcement officers.
They like sprinkles.
Everybody likes sprinkles.
Well, you do.
I'm not a sprinkle. I'm a bagel guy, man. I'm old school. I'm new school, I guess.
The sweets. All right, here we go. We'll give it one last.
All right. No more line questions.
Viewer pick. Any viewers, Dania? Anybody out there want to ask Nick a question?
Didn't you have another one? I thought you said you had another question somebody sent in.
Oh,
Or did we already address that?
We already
one?
addressed constitutional sheriff. That was from Jason.
That was. Hopefully, I got his question answered.
If not, we'll be back. When you coming back Friday again? I got you locked in already.
Yeah, we'll try Friday. I'll try and give you plenty in advance notice, so if somebody wants to get to me, they can get to me.
Well, no questions from the viewers at large. If you do, make sure you hit us up on the Facebook feed here. Hit Nick up on his Facebook page. Send him an email, Nick at Nick Pappas for Sheriff .com. I'll put it on the text.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too, and I know Doug gets the emails because I tell everybody, well, if you got questions for any of us, any of the candidates, and I know some of the other candidates have said the same, you can shoot them to Doug. We won't know who it is. We don't know the questions, contrary to common belief, until we get here. It's always a joy because most candidates will always like to, especially when you get above it.
It's the wheel, man.
It's the wheel. So, we don't know. None of the candidates know. We get here. Doug's got his nifty questions, and people do send him questions. So shoot him the questions for any of us. Usually, you still apply it to all of us, right? When we talk, that's how you've been doing it. So, like, if I get a question, you ask it to every one of us, all the candidates.
Well, usually I do. If they want it, I actually ask the requesting person, "Do you want me to ask it?"
Okay. I was just
like
curious.
Jason's question. He wanted it for tomorrow's interview with Stacy.
Stacy.
Well,
so hit him up, and feel free to hit any of us. I really want people to make an informed decision, wholeheartedly. Be confident in your vote when you make it, which is August 6th. Yes, I want your vote, but I want you to make an informed decision and feel comfortable in that vote.
Next week, let's make a point to talk about that article you sent me. My voice is going down. The article you sent me, what it is about the
which one did I send you?
The election process. That you have to go through the vetting process.
Oh, the vetting. That was a court case here recently in Missouri.
Springfield.
I'd never seen it before, and I was it popped up on my feed actually. Because I'm a member of the Republican Club, which I get all kinds of messages and emails and campaign stuff. But that was one of them.
That was interesting. I see.
Yeah, where they talk about the Central Committee vetting the candidates and that type of thing. Actually, I need to talk to like the Republican Club here because I'd never heard of it in Central Committee, and I don't know. I don't know what it entails. I've never seen it. I've been a member of the club since like 2012, I think. 2011. So I'm not real sure, and I'm definitely not familiar with that court case at all.
Be interesting if you know of any attorneys out there, ping them if they want to come on the show. Talk about constitutional sheriff.
I know you got a couple you chat with. You need to shoot it over to them and see what they say.
Let's see what I can do. I pull a couple strings and
blast it over to them and see what it's about. And I'm not even sure really what they're talking about as far as the vetting process.
Yeah, because when I read that article, it's in the Springfield Daily News, and I'll post the link to it on my site, and I'll share it and I'll tag Nick and anybody else. But it was kind of worrisome to me but I'm hopefully I misunderstood it. So, it
was so vague though.
Yeah, it was.
It was really, that article was really kind of vague on what it really was. So
I left with the impression that if a candidate within the Republican Party was not vetted by the party, then he or she could not show up on the ballot.
And they could be removed.
Yeah.
My thing is what do they? I mean, I understand what vetting is, but what are they vetting?
Exactly.
That is the question, and that's what I don't. That article, I was like, what is this?
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. It's kind of scary, but now that it's been they removed candidates from the ballot because of it. I got to dig into it.
And my thing is, are we going to get down to where, the party's going to pick the candidates and not the people? Yes. Shouldn't the people be the one vetting us? That's why we do these. This is why you campaign. This is why you.
Otherwise, you just go glad hand the party.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't understand it, and I don't want to talk out of turn. And that's something that I just saw it, and I was like, oh, he always gets heated. So I'm going to send it to him. See if I can get your blood pressure up. You got to fire it up. Yeah. So that is pretty interesting. I don't have any other questions that was forwarded to me.
Be anywhere anybody can see you? You going to any shindigs or?
I'm always out and about. I drive a big white truck with a magnet on it. I try and stop and talk to people if they're out and about. I try. I know there's some events down in Waynesville. I work 6.5 days a week.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I'm probably going to be working tonight.
Really?
But I try and make all of them. So I may not necessarily have a booth, but I'll get out and meet and greet and shake some hands if I can. And
take donations?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure all of us will take donations.
I thought you would, but I didn't see it. But don't be shy. If you want to hit Nick up for a couple nickels, rub them together and see if they'll grow and help.
See if they smoke or whatever. Don't buy any movie money. That's not legal.
That's right.
We get a lot of that going around where I work at full time now.
I can't believe they actually try to get away with that.
That and that Chinese money you buy that they burn. Yep. I'm like, really, dude? It says movie money on it. Come on, man. That was the only one that I can remember. I wish I could remember the gentleman that sent me the question so I could recognize him, but I can't off the top of my head. And I kind of left and got here as quick as I could.
Well, we'll be here Friday, so
yeah. I think we'll probably have to dig into. I think the jail's a hot topic right now, but the budget was another one. They wanted me to get into the weeds a little bit. I've been hit up when I'm out talking to people, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit more.
We'll get some pepper. So,
well, maybe some people will send you some questions or some topics as well. We're here to address their concerns. I don't want to just talk about anything. If they're not concerned about it, I want to address their concerns.
I have to use some geek speak and develop a form. People can go submit the questions anonymously.
Yeah, send it. Whoever you are. Again, make an informed decision. Look at all of us. Of course, I want your vote. That's why we do this. But I really want you to make an informed decision. But August 6th is really important right now.
I agree. And that's why I started this.
Yeah. And I think, too, I'm going to throw this in because we got 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this well in the past and in previous elections. And I've talked about it at the club. Your local elections, are so important. That's the people that govern, what we do. I know you got some road commissioners that are running. Every vote counts. Literally, every vote counts for a local candidate. So get your friends out there and get them to vote.
Family.
Yep, family, friends. If they're not registered, get them out there registered. Do it the right way, of course. We don't want to turn this into a national fiasco like we're already having.
I would have been an alderman and had my family voted.
Yeah, so
I ran, and I did. If I had 18 people show up, and 5 of them, I would have won.
Yep. And then next thing you know, people were complaining. Well, get out and vote. That's your time. Take the time and research your candidate. Read. I'm pretty confident every candidate's got a ton of info out there.
Yeah.
I've handed out way too many flyers, cards, social media. I come on here as often as I can with you. Get out there and vote, though, and that's a huge, huge thing, especially on a local election. Your city council members get out there when they hold those local elections. Your vote absolutely counts on a local level.
To me, it's your voice.
Yep.
You can't be on Facebook bad-mouthing everybody and do nothing about it unless you're not able to, of course. But
yeah, there's some people that is their voice because they can't get out.
If they can vote, if they want to change things, what they say, rock the vote. There's some legitimacy to that.
Absolutely, get out there, talk to your city council members if you got concerns. Social media is a great tool, but I'm telling you, working in law enforcement as long as I have, you get out there, man. Some people start zinging you on social media, and you're like, I didn't know. How can I fix it if I don't know it's broke? Yeah. Give them a chance to address it. And then if they don't address it, then like those fires, so to speak, metaphorically, don't go burn something down. But
it also give them the chance. That's why we set this up here, was that you voters and residents of Pulaski County and abroad could engage with the candidates of any party, and because we've never had this before, it's always frustrating to me. So,
and it's hard when you have limited media. We got DTM and you, but it's still limited. And we don't have a published newspaper, so to speak. So get out, pay attention to what's going on, ask those questions, and hit us up. Fire the heat rounds.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to sign you off and silence you.
Appreciate it.
There we go. I'm Doug Fowler. I want to say thank you for everybody, especially our sponsors. You're clear. And most of all, thanks to Pru Law Office for sponsoring, being the gold sponsor, making this possible. If you'd like to be a sponsor, visit Pulaski-podcast.com. You can become a sponsor and help the show continue to prosper. We're going to make some changes this summer, maybe to expand our footprint, not just in Pulaski County, but also Southeast Missouri. I've had some engagement from across the counties, and who knows, we may be just more than Pulaski Talks. We may be Southeast Missouri Rocks or something. Who knows? But with that, we'll sign everybody off. Thank you so much for joining us. And until then,